Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take good care. Waterworld is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe to get every update. The movie is set in the year 2500 when the Earth is completely covered by water. Polar ice caps have dissolved and ocean levels have risen over 25 feet, with individuals living on the water. The world is now adapting to the better approaches of living. Individuals live on pontoons and have colonies that are made on ships. The aggregate of human civilization has overlooked approximately living on arrive to the point that the thought is presently a myth. The motion picture begins with a man, sailor, who lives on this soil as a recluse. He has his possessed vessel made from the rummaged junk within the sea called Traran and reuses his pee as drinking water. He spends his days collecting artifacts and food from the foot of the sea. One day, whereas he is out within the sea doing his normal chores, a stranger approaches him. The stranger, to begin with, comes with a neighborly confront. After a whereas he finds out that his limes, an uncommon natural product, are stolen fair. At that point, another pontoon with smokers, the privateers of the unused world, come to take rummaged things from sailor. At that point, amid the chaos, he finds out that the stranger is the one who stole his lime. Seeing this, sailor gets angry and tries to urge him. This makes him amazingly angry, and he sails towards that stranger's watercraft. Indeed, in spite of the fact that his pontoon looks like it's made out of trash, the watercraft is greatly quick. He, at that point, sails right over the drifter's little pontoon and annihilates it, clearing out him for the smokers. After that, he sets out to cruise towards a colony that he had listened would make exchanges with him. And to begin with, he isn't permitted to enter when appeared that he has a few great earth, which is exceptionally profitable these days. Like a product, his section looks legit, and after that is given consent to enter. When he enters, he realizes that the situation there is more regrettable than it is out there. Individuals there have no nourishment and are living in extraordinary destitution. He, at that point, meets a fellow who gives him 2 hours to wrap up everything is here, for he goes to the advertise and tries to offer a few soil and trade for a few money. Called chits, he finds one merchant willing to donate him a colossal chunk of cash. Niner inquires the shipper to twofold the money. Amid that time, a fellow named Nor is inquiring around a young lady with a tattoo that's the outline of a dry arrive. After a whereas, he spots that young lady who is going by the title Enola. She is being taken care of by Helen, who could be a neighborhood offered. In the interim, sailor spends his chips on a tomato plant and a few racks for his watercraft. Whereas he is returning to his watercraft, a family approaches him to impregnate their girls, since inbreeding inside the colony was causing colossal complications in children, and they didn't want that for their girl. But Marinina refuses them, weirded approximately the truth that a man is dismissing a lady. The people of Adel take him into custody. During that, one of the people finds that he could be a mutant with gills and webbed feet. Shockingly, the individuals of Adel are alarmed by the change and choose to cage him. They assault him and he is detained until encouraged. Take note, he is caged over at the docks. The sailor takes note a few of the youthful individuals scavening and taking a few of Tran's assets. As they take off the Adel, subtly Helen begins talking with her financial specialist, Buddy Gregor, on the other side, who is moreover trying to find Dry Arrive. She tells him that Enola could be in threat, which all three of them should leave that put as before long as conceivable. Gregor tells her that they can't do so since no one can examine the outline inked on her back. The young lady looks mysterious and always draws odd pictures and images that she does not recognize. Afterward, Enola tells them that sailor may well be able to study the tattoo and that Gregor ought to inquire him. At night, Gregor carefully approaches sailor. He begins inquiring him a bunch of questions, almost his mutation. He moreover inquires him about Dry Arrive and everything. All of a sudden, somebody comes and their conversation closes with Gregor clearing out. In the morning, everybody encompasses sailor and a choice is made to suffocate him in a pit of natural slime, whereas within the handle of reusing him. At the same time, and advertisement, All's Post spots an expansive armed force of smokers, led by Minister, coming to their settlement in look of Enola. At that point, when the local people start to fear and assault, the execution of the sailor is put off. Helen tries to escape with Enola on a hot disgust swell that Gregor made as the smokers assault, but the balloon is unintentionally released too soon, taking off Helen and Enola behind. In the midst of all this, Mariner's cage is thumped and he is gradually suffocating within the pit, but the two girls decide to spare him, trusting that in return he would too spare them. Helen goes to spare him, giving him the final proposal that she'll do so only if he agrees to require both of them with him. Sailor concurs. Sailor at that point goes to his dispatch. The young ladies open the doors of Adel as an escape route. In the meantime, Minister hinders their escape. Mariner rapidly battles them off and all of them elude securely. Meanwhile, Deacon finds out that Enola had gotten away with the assistance of Mariner. At that point, sets his team out to get her back. At the Mariner's vessel, Helen inquires him approximately his information deacon of Dry arrive, he tells her that he does and they have distant better, a much better, a higher, a stronger, an improved chance of getting there in case they toss Enola over the edge due to constrained supplies. Helen immediately rejects the idea and tries to alter his intellect by advertising herself to her, but to her daunt he denies her. She at that point snatches a weapon and debilitates him, but Mariner thumps her out. At that time, Minister and his smoker's base is located at a giant oil tanker interior. Minister tries to induce his specialist to create him a prosthetic eye. After the disappointment to do so, he instead gets a fix for his eye. At that point, upon assessing, he realizes the ship's oil is moo and inquires his minions to quickly go look out for her by means of the airplane on the vessel. When Enola begins drawing her images on the dispatch, Sailor gets angry. He tosses her over the edge and Helen screams. She shouts that she cannot swim, so she goes to get her. Sailor changes his intellect about leaving them and decides to spare them. All of a sudden, the plane sent out by Deacon finds them. Sailor goes down to prepare a weapon, but fearful Helen alarms and begins shooting to form the circumstance more awful. The plane instead begins circling the plane with a metal rope. This causes genuine harm to the plane. With endeavors to cut that rope, he climbs on it, but the plane pilot shoots. At first, Mariner dives into the sea and the pilot get away. Angry with what fair happened, Sailor chosen to cut both of the girls' hair as a punishment. He tells them to never touch anything on the vessel ever again. He moreover inquires Enola to never draw on the boat again. Back at the smoker's den, the pilot tells Minister approximately the girls' whereabouts. He then tells them to caught the three on the way. On the other side, Sailor comes over a vagabond. He tells them that he includes a exceptionally vital paper that might have clues on the Dry arrive. Sailor tells him that he doesn't have anything he can exchange with the drifter. Basically inquires for half an hour with Helen. Sailor concurs. The Wanderer, along with Helen who protested, is bolted below the deck. Upon finding that the papers are useless, he quickly goes to spare Helen from the man. The vagabond gets furious and tries to slaughter him. Battle happens, but Sailor kills him and tosses him off the watercraft. All three of them are presently frantic for nourishment, so he appears the young ladies how he chases for nourishment. He goes into the water with his weapon. He acts like a snare within the sea, and to his credit, a transformed shark tried to swallow him instead. He murders that shark first, and all of them have a feast. The next morning, Sailor teaches Enola how to swim. Helen is happy with the bonding of the two. After a few days, the trio is once again ambushed by the smoker from submerged. The Sailor realizes the trap and turns his vessel to elude. They scarcely oversee to elude indeed. After the Minister opens fire with his rifle, injuring the Mariner, he inquires Helen on the off chance that she knows anything about why they are being trapped. Once more Helen tells him that she is the young lady with a tattoo of a map to the dry land. He tells her that it's all a myth and has never come remotely close to a Dry arrive. Tuning into it, Helen gets irate. In an exertion to persuade her, he takes her underneath in a handcrafted plunging chime. Sailor goes without it since he has gills and he can swim. They go profound down into the submerged city. When they return back, they realize that smokers have come once more. They undermine to slaughter Enola. In the event that they do not hand her over quickly, Enola, who is hiding, resurfaces upon hearing the firing of weapons. Thinking her friends are in threat, Enola gets caught. The smokers, upon the Deacon's order, start attempting to murder the other two, but two of them dive into the sea. He kisses her so that he can breathe for the both of them. Upon returning, they find that Enola at the side. The smokers are now gone. Mariner tells Helen how much it feels lonely, and Helen kisses him. Both of them share insinuate minutes together. Another morning, he begins looking at Anna's drawing and begins making associations with the images within the National Geographic collections. When he looks at the various objects such as trees and other land objects, he thinks that all this conversation around dry land might really be true. After a whereas Gregor finds them in a hot air balloon, he takes them towards the improvised atoll with survivors. They examine the different ways to induce to the Dry arrive, as it were, to find that their efforts are futile without Enola. A few contend that rescuing her is much more of a peril. Sailor goes off to spare her alone. He goes off on a pontoon alone. After coming to the smoker's cave, he begins slaughtering anyone who gets in the way. Sailor goes up against the Deacon and holds out a flare, undermining to ignite the oil reserves and the tanker unless he returns. And Noah, Minister, considering that it's a feint, doesn't accept it, but Mariner drops the flare into the oil save of the dispatch, and the ship explodes into blazes. In the midst of everything, Minister takes Enola and tries to fly with her on the plane, but Sailor stops them by securing the plane with a metal wire. He salvages her, and both of them grasp each other. In the interim, Gregor, with his hot disgust swell, appears up. They immediately let down a rope for the Sailor to elude as he brings Enola to Helen, but to everyone's astonished, Deacon starts climbing that rope as well. To Mariner kicks and tosses him into the water. Minister at that point finds a jet ski and shoots at the hot disgust swell. It disbalances the balloon and Enola falls into the sea, whereas Minister is attempting to get her. Sailor ties himself with a line and Bungee bounced into the sea to urge her ride. After he gets her, the three fly skis with Minister and his men collide with one another. They kick the bucket due to the blast. Afterward, Gregor overseas to recognize the tattoo on Noah's back as the facilitates and the invert bearings. After some days of flying, they find the dry arrive. Upon taking after the coordinates filled with vegetation and sand and everything they've never seen sometime recently, the whole bunch is captivated by the revelation. They go interior the little hovel there and discover skeletons of individuals. They find that the remains are of Enola's guardians. They realize that possibly the young lady was sent out with the trusts that she would bring more individuals to the dry arrive. The individuals deliver her guardians a legitimate burial. Everybody within the dry arrive appears to be having fun, but Sailor feels out of put. The dry arrive feels cumbersome and like he doesn't truly have a place there. He chooses to take off and go out into the sea, where he feels that domestic Enola tells him that perhaps he will adjust, but he feels that the sea is his calling. Everybody regards his choice and he begins building a wooden boat. Helen and Enola offered him goodbye. Sailor guarantees to tell others. Approximately the dry arrive. The motion picture closes with Helen and Enola climbing to the most elevated slope to observe him cruise, absent as it were to find that they are standing on best of Mount Everest. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.